Let's have a design adventure. I'm making some clothes for American Girl dolls, and I don't have an American Girl doll, so I thought I would make a dress form for one to make sure the clothes looked right and to be able to take pictures. I got a friend to measure her doll, and she came up with a bust of 12 inches, a waist of 11, a back waist length of 4 inches. That's from the neck bone. Of course, the doll doesn't really have one, but from the imaginary neck bone to the narrow part of the waist is 4 inches, and a hip measurement of 12 inches. And by great happy accident, this bottle comes very close to those measurements. So I simply have to make a nice cover for it. By the way, this is a Kroger vegetable oil bottle, but from what I've seen at the grocery store, most vegetable oil bottles are much the same. So here is what I am going to try. I've got 2 layers of sturdy fabric here. And on the inside, you won't see these markings. I have marked out the following measurements. This is 6 inches, and I'll cut outside of that line, of course. Well, actually, this is 6 inches, and I'll cut here. See the second marks? Let me darken them a little bit just in case. This will be my cutting line. This is my 6-inch line. 6 inches being 1/2 of the bust and hip measurement of 12. This point marks where the narrow part of the waist should be. And I've pondered over that. I won't be able to slip this over my form if I take the waist in with darts beforehand. So I think I'm simply going to tie a ribbon or elastic around it afterwards. It's only slightly smaller than the other measurements. Coming on down, I've marked all the way to the bottom, and I'll cut here. So we're basically making a tube to slide over this bottle, with one exception. I slanted upwards 1/2 inch to this point to make the back, neck, and the shoulder slope. This is a guesstimate on my part, but I've been a career dressmaker. It's an educated guesstimate. And I want a little bit of arm extension so that things like cardigans and dresses will fit on the shoulders and not slide off. You know how dress forms are frequently made with a little bit of shaping there. So let's see what happens. I'm going to cut this out. Sew together on the sewing lines. These big dotted lines are the cutting lines. I am not going to trim off all the fabric at the arm extensions yet. I want to have the option of fooling around with it later. And now you'll be able to see that what I'm getting is sort of a t-shirt shaped piece of fabric, which is what you'd expect. Now I'm going to go off camera and stitch from here down, let's see, I need to cut this so it's actually an opening, because I'm going to leave those openings open. I'm going to stitch along here, 1/4 inch away from the cutting line for the neck and shoulder, but I'm going to skip this area so that it will fit over the bottleneck. Got that? So 2 side seams, leave the armholes open so the top up to one side of the neck and down from the other side. I'll see you when I'm done. I also sewed not only right up to this underarm, but out the edge to make the beginnings of the arm shape. And as you know, when you make a tight curve like that, you need to clip it so it will turn easily. So we'll do that on both sides. Right up to the stitching, but not including the stitching. And we'll turn it inside out. Well, right side out, actually. Now it's inside out. Doing a quick test fitting, it looks as though it's going to work quite well, but I would like to have a little bit of cushioning so that this cover fits more snugly and looks more body-like. This would in fact work, but for photos it's going to look nicer if I do some cushioning and tidying up. So let's pull this off. And these are scraps. If I had one whole nice piece, oops, I'm going to turn smooth side out. This is just quilt batting. And if I had one whole nice piece, I would use it, but I'm not going to stress over the fact that I do not. Let's see if scotch tape will hold it around the back. I can be generous because this will be covered. And of course, in a garment, scotch tape would be of no use. It could never be washed. But dress forms for dolls do not get washed a great deal. Ever. Is how much mine is going to get washed. Never. If that does not work for you or for me, what we can do is use basting stitches, sturdy thread and big stitches, and get it held on there. Because once that fabric cover is on, this batting will be trapped. This worked quite well. I had to make a couple of refinements, which I will show you. It turned out that it was a good idea to add scotch tape around this neckline, bottleneck, doll neck, both, to keep the top piece of batting in place as I slid over. The bottom piece did not want to stay. I wouldn't have had that problem if I had a single piece, but I'm just going to leave it off. I think it'll be all right. Now I'm going to wrap this as though it was a present. I had a really hard time doing this where you could see it on camera, so I went off camera and stitched. I folded in those edges and I'm stitching them together. Now I'm going to fold in the ends and stitch them neatly using doubled thread, by the way. All secured. The stitches are not beautiful, but neatness here on the stitching is not the goal, just security. Now this will stand on its own. But if you have a need for it to be more stable and you don't want to fill with sand, now this could be hot glued or fabric glued with generous blobs of glue to perhaps a round or rectangular wooden base. The next step is to make the neckline lay down and hug the bottleneck nicely by trimming it in the same way you always trim curves. Snip, snip, snip. Now we'll put something around here to bind it and get rid of this excess. I'm going to get rid of some of it first. I think that the best way to do this is going to be to wrap something around it like this. Double check that all the ends are tucked in. So I'm going to do some trimming off camera and secure it first with a little bit of basting glue to hold it, and then stitch it shut in the back. So let's do that. This is just an ordinary glue stick. First I'm going to stick down the little snips we just made, the divisions of fabric, and then I'm going to put the ribbon over them. I think that's going to be the neatest way. This is not washable glue that you would use if you were really embellishing a garment or anything like that. But we're not really embellishing a garment. At this point, I've got to choose which is going to be the front and which is going to be the back, because I would prefer to have my joins in the back. So take a good look. I think the sides are pretty much equally nice, but if you had one that was less nice, that should be the back. Do a fitting test. Snip it off. Generously glue based. That should be enough glue to hold us temporarily. And after the whole thing is dry, if there are any threads or snippets of fabric poking out, I can use little teeny scissors to trim them. I want to get this pretty tight. That'll be okay. So now I'll get my needle and thread and close this up in the back so that it can't go anywhere. If you have trouble with it slipping, you could always do a few stitches around the edge. It's going to be tricky, but it's doable. I think the left one is about right at this point. And here's how I did it. This is some inexpensive polyfill, and I'm pulling it out to make it as loose and fluffy as possible. And I'm going to stuff it bit by bit into this other side. I did find that you need to work at getting it on up into the shoulder area, otherwise it won't just naturally go there. And we only want the stub of an arm sticking out. Too much makes long-sleeved items hang peculiarly. But just enough to give shoulder shaping makes everything hang better. You can only do a little bit at a time because this girl doesn't have very big arms, but your fingers should fit in there without a problem. And if you need to adjust, an ink pen does a good job of reaching in and wiggling around. I believe once I get this piece in, that will be enough. Now for the last step after this goes in, turn the rest of the fabric inwards and poke it in. Now you have a choice when this is done neatly about whether to sew the end of the arm shut or not. Since this is not a real girl and she's not going to wiggle, you don't have to. And I'm going to choose to leave mine open so that I can adjust it as needed. Try to get them to look as much alike as possible. This one maybe could use a little more stuffing. Let me take care of it. There we go. That should do the job.